welcome to Gamers Anonymous. I'm your host, Gam3rs, and on today's show we got a little bit of a special thing going on with the Gamers View. That's pretty much it. So, sit back, relax, and let's play some games. We got a bit something. It got a bit special, and on Hello and welcome to the Gamers View. I am your host, Gam3rs.
And he's surrounded by a lot of girls.
Yeah, so it's like the View, only for games and stuff.
I'm Caroline, Cordia Voodoo.
And Tabby Cat.
And this here,
Pink Moscato.
Pink Moscato.
Okay, so today we're going to be discussing some gaming topics, and these are like topics that they have hit the news and have affected people, and people have been talking about it, and we thought, hey,
It's been on the news for some time.
yeah.
And
So
I think some of these topics really need to be addressed from a gamer's perspective.
I think when Battlefield came out, I might be wrong, but I think it was Battlefield when a lot of people started complaining about the realism of violence in gaming. What do you guys think?
Oh, well, I think that Battlefield 3, I've played that, I finished it and enjoyed it somewhat. I do think it can get a little bit violent, can get a little bit hectic, especially with like language and stuff like that, but you kind of expect that from a war game. I also think that there is an age restriction, so I don't blame the developers for doing all these games at all. My personal standpoint is that the developers are just trying to do something that, they think is going to be a really good seller.
Yeah.
I think ultimately the responsibility of buying a violent video game for you. This is the topic that we're sort of trying to cover, is what age group should these games be for? They're already rated, and I think the responsibility falls mostly on the parent and the person selling the game.
Yeah, but like, it's one of those things, as a kid, we grew up watching Bugs Bunny and Daffy's Elf get shot constantly,
Excision.
all the time. And then there was Wile E. Coyote that had every violent thing known to man happen to him in the hopes of catching that roadrunner. It never affected, I think, as long as kids are taught that this is a game, this is not reality, then it shouldn't affect it. Games that have a lot of gore and stuff like that definitely shouldn't be shown to kids.
Like horror-based games,
Horror-based
Bioshock,
games,
Fear and all that sort
stuff
of
like
things.
that. But if you think the kid can take it or something like that, then maybe, some kids grew up. I was like 9 or 10 when I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, but where would you draw the line? Like, where, as a teen, where would you draw the line in like violent gaming?
Because like gaming's changed so much, like I know personally for me, like when I was, I don't know, it was like when I was like 10 or something, when we were playing with the little Nintendo consoles and I was playing Duke Nukem, and the biggest violence was just some red little dots that were on the screen, and that was personally vomit worthy to me, but like I still played it anyway.
Wait a second, you were playing Duke Nukem at that age?
I personally think is because of the technology and the graphics is so like advanced. It's make the violence make it so realistic. So some children, they will actually get affected, not consciously but unconsciously. You know what I mean? They don't not just like, okay, I stab you and see the blood, but you can actually see the person amputated, cut off the hand and stuff like that. It's just.
So you're thinking more of a long-term effect, like how does this affect their psyche in the future?
Yes. So when a person plays a game, it really depends on the maturity, whether they they're mature enough to know, okay, this is just a game.
Yeah.
Or some children, maybe they have ADHD, that kind of. They would actually takes a lot more.
Especially. Especially.
Yeah, but not necessarily. Asperger's people are very literal. Games to them are games. Mm-hmm. They're not, they're very literal. They're like, oh, that's a game, that's my escape from reality. And that's why they use games so much. So they don't confuse the two at all.
No.
They just prefer the game rather than reality because social interactions make them feel uncomfortable.
So
You know?
ultimately, you're saying it just basically, you're saying it can have long-term effects if they're not careful, but you're saying as long as they get the proper education and knowing that it's a game, that it's not real.
Look,
and not to do
graphics
that.
are always going to get better and better
Yeah.
and better. When I watched Nightmare on Elm Street or Chucky, back then
That was
the
cool.
that was the top of high-end,
Yeah.
graphic movies, and it was just haunting me. It was, but at the same time, it was
You knew
kind
it
of
wasn't
like
real.
we knew it wasn't real. We knew it was a movie.
Despite
know?
you still had nightmares
Of course,
of
but
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
But it sort of deters a little bit from the violence in game. I think the one reason why people are so concerned is because the games can be so immersive
Yeah.
that kids may eventually, and we're talking younger generation,
Yeah.
teenagers are old enough to know, but when you get like someone that's like 8 or 9 playing these sort of games, that's when you think that maybe they shouldn't. Or something like Halo may be okay, but when you get something like Battlefield, Call of Duty, the graphics are ultra realistic now, especially with all these first person shooters. And yeah,
Because remember at a young age, that the youngest age is where we're taking in the most information in our lives. And that information sticks with us for the rest of our lives, especially at the young age. And especially games such as like GTA. I remember my brother, he was playing it at a very young age, and that caused a lot of influence in his daily life. And and that sticks with us.
I did play GTA to the point where I felt like I was part of that world, and walking around like in the real world, and you sort of feel like it. But I'm old enough to know that obviously I'm not going to go around stealing cars and shooting people.
But I think we also all have definitely we need those restrictions, age restrictions. I'm not saying no to that at all, but I do get there are so many influences in our life. People have a natural thing of wanting to escape, whether it's games, whether it's books, whether it's comic books, whether it's movies, whether it's Facebook. I think people just need to learn, no matter what their age group, and this is something you need to teach your kids at a young age, that escaping is okay, but there's still a balance you need to keep here. There is still a thing that it doesn't matter, because even if you can take away every game from a child, they will find something else to escape into. Girls would like to escape into little princesses' houses, and boys become racing car drivers. So it doesn't matter, they're always going to try and escape and everything. So it's about teaching them that it's okay to escape, we all need that, but we also need to be snap back into reality. Here's a responsibility, don't let that take over your life.
Hang on a second, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, because I'm just saying, because a lot of young kids, they, as I said, they haven't learned how to fully communicate appropriately. And a lot of games, before they actually say anything, they just shoot the person already. You know what I mean? When kids, get angry or something, they probably don't know how to. And it's just like, I hit you. Okay, this is the ultimate solution to me,
Yeah.
So I think game violence, as well as I agree, education should be together. And I do recommend, if parents starting to see a child emotionally change, maybe it's time to stop and have a bit of talk to them, instead of letting play for hours and they seriously, they get into the world, especially the first person shooting. They're so realistic, It's like I'm holding the gun,
And I agree with you with the fact that the gaming blocks the whole, thinking about what you're actually doing. I mean, they'll probably do it, say if they become violent in real life, and they won't realise that it's reality until it's done, until the consequences.
So to summarise this up, right, because we've been on this for a while, what do you think, or who do you think should be the responsible party when it comes to child playing gaming, or do you actually think there should be content filtering in all these sort of games?
I think the responsibility is both obviously the developers. If you want to create a game, create something that is obviously going to be a little bit morbid, a little bit disturbing, a little bit violent, you need to warn people that there's graphic content in this.
Well, they do
The
that,
same
though.
thing. Yeah, well, exactly. So the gaming developers need to do that. So that they already do
That's
that.
why I don't have a
They-
problem with the developers.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
think they're doing everything
They
do.
can. And then after that, it's up to the parent as well. So, like, you know, I mean, there are some kids, I mean, I will admit, my son will, if I let him, he'd just stay there all day and play games. He would, absolutely. He's gaming through and through, and that's all he is. But he also uses that as an escape, and as well at the same time, I, you know, have to go nana at him and then listen to him.
So you
Non-stop
basically
and-
just you basically think that okay, there should be a certain limitation to how much the parent allows their child to play, like
It's
a
up
time
to
of
the
day and stuff like
parent,
that. So it's up to
you
the
know.
parent.
It's really up to the parent. Every child's an individual. You need to be able to, you know, look after that and look after their needs and see whether these games are affecting them, these games are making them like this, or these games are making them like that. And if we start doing the same thing with games, with books and with all that kind of stuff, then we're controlling even more, we're taking more away from the parent and not letting the parent make these decisions for them.
Yeah.
One more thing I want to add is maybe it's better when a parent to go and buy a game for the kid. It's better to just go before you actually purchase and buy it. Just ask this the person who sells you what is it about. Is it like very well or something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of parents have no
because
idea what the
yeah,
game is
that's
about.
the
Exactly,
thing.
because
That's
they're so
the
popular.
biggest
Or popular. He wanted. I'll give it to you.
Maybe that's
Yeah,
where it's
that's
got to
not
go.
the
Is
way.
education not just to the child but to the parent as well.
Yeah,
Parents
we
probably
were
got to
discussing
research the game.
Bioshock
Yeah.
and everything, and I had no idea what Bioshock was about. I mean, I'm a gamer, but I'm a PC game. I'm not an
Yeah.
Xbox. When my son, when Bioshock came out, my son was too scared to play it. At the same time, I mean, I should have asked the question, and normally I would.
How
Normally I
violent is the game? How
Normally I-
gory is it? How
yeah.
scary is it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
but I
things
didn't
like
ask
that.
the question, and yeah, and he was real surprised when I saw it, and I was like, oh my god, this is actually quite scary. And he was quite young at the time, so yeah, definitely have to ask the question, or at least do research. Go on YouTube, go check out a trailer.
Check it out, man. Like
You know.
seriously, that's an issue that the longer that parents neglect to do that, or forget to do it, or don't bother doing it, or doing their own research, the harder it will be. Like laws will start getting implemented and things like that. It's going to come down to a crackdown on the kind of, and I'm not talking about a game. It'll come down to like a crackdown on gaming itself, as to content and everything like that, because parents need to also be educated on the kind of game, especially if you're not a gamer. If you're a gaming parent, then obviously you'll more than likely know about it. But if you're not, then you definitely need to, like, if your child comes up to you saying, hey, I want this game, I want this game, go on YouTube, look it up, find out the information, find the website, get as much information as possible on the game, and then make a decision on whether or not it's
I think parents need to learn that at a young age this is not really reversible, because at a age from 5 to 10, that's the most information that they'll keep with them for the rest of their life, and they can't not take that back. So.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll see you guys next week. Until then, take care of yourself and your console.